I'm going to be talking to you about the Calibration Reference Data System, or as we call it, CRDS. So first off, what is CRDS? This is the system that manages all of the reference files for JWST, HST, Roman, any instrument we work with. These are the things like the darks, flats, anything that are used in the pipeline to calibrate the data. What happens is the pipeline will request a particular reference file. CRDS will then go and find the specific reference file that works for the data that you are using based on the mode and the date, and then send that file back to the pipeline for use. So there is documentation in JDocs. I'm going to try to go back and forth between these two and hope everything shows. So this is the overview page for the calibration reference files. There's going to be some warnings along the pages. So this page also shows the reference file types. And I just wanted to browse through this very quickly so you can see there are a lot of reference files used in the JWST pipeline. So if we go back, you can see that this page also talks about the servers, and I'll discuss that in a minute, how to find out when there are new reference files. And that's basically what this slide says. So first off, how do I know what reference file my data should be using? There is, and I'll cover this page a little bit later. You will go to this page, it's the CRDS page, to find out by instrument and then by reference file type what you're looking for. So if you want to find, in my example here, a MIRI dark for the IFU long slow mode, you come down, you click MIRI dark, find the IFU long slow mode, full frame, and this is the in-flight file with the latest update, the latest date. So the file you should be using for this particular mode in the darks is JWST MIRI dark 0086. Now, how do you find out what file was actually used in your data? You can use a tool like DS9, FITS Viewer, which is FB, or any other preferred tool to read the header. And you would look for keywords like R_dark, R_flat, where the R indicates reference file. So you would come down here and see this little snippet from a previous file. It has R distortion, R filter offset, and R flat. That tells you what reference files were used in this particular file. And this you would read in the header of your science output file. You can also read it in with Python. If you use fits.io, you'd use the fits.get header, or you could use the data models, say read a rate or a cal file in as an image model, do ratefile.meta.instance, and get something out like this on the side. It shows you the CRDS context used. I'll mention that in a little bit. The software version, and then the names of various reference files that were used in each individual step. And how do I know if the files have been updated and I need to rerun my data? One thing you need to understand is that JWST has just come out of commissioning. We have not finished our calibration yet, so as the teams are taking more data, they're doing the calibration, they're updating the reference files. There's a lot of turnover in the reference files right now. A lot of them are being updated as we find out more about how our instrument is behaving. And you can find out when reference files are updated by sending an email to one of these subscribe request lists. You just send an email with no subject or email body to the list, and you will get put on this email list so that every time that particular instrument gets a new reference file, you will get an email telling you what the reference file is, what mode it belongs to, and whether you should reprocess. And you can also find out in the history keyword of the particular reference file if you want to go look at that specifically to see what has changed. Now, there are two different CRDS servers currently for retrieving calibration reference files. There's the ops, which is the operational server, or pub, which is public. Ops supports the operational pipeline. So this is what MAST uses. This is the version of the pipeline that runs automatically. Pub supports the latest version of the pipeline that is available to be downloaded and used by the users offline. So this is something that you can download and run yourself. You can run the ops version as well, but you can specify which version of the pipeline you want to use. Pub may have code updates or files that are not available in the operational pipeline, so it may be a version or two ahead of ops. However, be very, very careful here. If you plan to use both versions, you'll need to set up different directories for the reference files because the files may not have the same file names in both systems. So if you're running ops, but you're pointing to a pub server, and ops tells you you need to use file 0086, that works for ops, but that might not be the same mode even in pub. So be very careful and set these up specifically and make sure you know which one you're using. And this is how you do that. So there's some documentation here, up the link at the top, but basically what you need to do is set your CRDS path and your CRDS server URL. So this is what you would need to set for the ops server, and you will set up this specific path. So you will download all your data to whatever CRDS cache you want, but this will be a directory that you set up on your computer. So this could be home, this could be /user/username, whatever it is. You would set up one for JWST ops and point to jwst-crds.stsci.edu, or you would point to pub, which would be set up as some kind of JWST pub with jwst-crds-pub.stsci.edu. If you also have a specific context that you would like to use, you can specify that as well. If you do not specify any particular context, it will use whatever the latest version is, and in most cases, that's all you need. You just want the most updated version. So you would just maybe not even use the CRDS context, but if there's something specific that you want, you can also specify that. If you don't specify a reference file when you're running the pipeline, it will ping CRDS, it will get the most up-to-date reference file, and it will use that automatically. If you have a reference file that you would like to run for a specific step on your own when you're running the pipeline, you can override the pipeline's defaults and specify a desired file. So if you're running on the command line, you would start with strun, the name of the pipeline, and then -h because this is the help to see what options there are for overrides. This is one particular override option. So say we have a saturation file that we want to put in. Say strun, name of the pipeline, your science file, and then --, these are two dashes, steps.saturation.override saturation, and then the name of your file. You can also do that in Python by setting up a configuration file as a dictionary. So you would specify numerous things here. In this case, you want to skip the IPC step. And here you want to say, this is a saturation file that I want to use. You would say override saturation with your file name. And then just do a detector1.call. So .call is the one that works with this syntax. And there is also more documentation here. To download a specific reference file, you would click on one of these, and let's just go to ops. And this is the page I showed you earlier. Let me explain a little bit about this before we do the download portion. This tells you for the operational version, this is ops, this is not pub, what the context is that is being used. You can see the context history as to what reference files were updated in each context. In most cases, again, you would just want to use the most recent version. And say we want to download a Miri Dark, which, just offhand, Miri Darks get very large, so be ready to wait. You will see that there are a number of blue and brown options here. Anything brown means this file doesn't actually exist for this particular instrument. So you can toggle NA, and this will be only the files that you can actually get that actually exist. So you would click on dark, and you would come down and say, I want a, let's see, this is divided out by detector, readout pattern, subarray, and then the use after date. So the version we had used previously was an IFU long slow mode. with a full frame. So you can click on the file itself, click on the file name, and hopefully this loads. Live demos are always tricky. You never know if the website's going to cooperate. There we go. And you can click on a few things here to see what is in this particular file. So here's the FITS format. Here's a few things that refer to the file. You can see the delivery notification that came with the file. But what you'll want to do to get the file is just click this download and then tell it where you want to save your file. So you will start your exploration of CRDS looking in JDocs or Read the Docs, which has more in-depth information about any of the individual reference files. But if you still have questions, you can submit a help desk ticket. For CRDS and pipeline bugs, if you get an error, you can't find the file, that it's telling you the file doesn't exist or something like that, you would submit a ticket to the pipeline support in the JWST help desk. If you have instrument-specific questions, and these are going to be more along the lines of what was done with this particular reference file, or when might we see an update to this particular reference file, that goes to the instrument teams. You would click on the help desk, log in, and you will see cards for pipeline or the various instruments. And those are how you would decide which pipeline you're sending or which specific section you're sending your help desk question to.